Okay, good morning and welcome, guys. This is Pounds for Breakfast. It is Wednesday, the 26th of October. And as always, I am super proud and privileged to be your host this morning, guys. Listen, we had a massive day yesterday. If you were with us in the markets, we absolutely dominated both dollars for lunch as well as our special trade-a-thon yesterday evening. So if you were part of dollars for lunch, you were part of the special trade-a-thon, please just put up your hand. Guys, most valued traders, without a doubt, you guys are absolute legends. Thank you for joining us. It was a massive day yesterday, and we're about to do it all over again today. So we obviously want you to sit back, relax, enjoy, because we're about to take things to a whole new level once again. All right, beautiful. So we're going to jump into it. There's a lot that's happened in the markets from our last Pounds for Breakfast. Guys, listen, if you're watching live right now and you don't have a Globex 360 live account, get yourself sorted out. There are so many reasons over and above the live broadcast in terms of cashback, in terms of deposit bonuses that are coming very soon. I asked you guys to vote. What do you want more? What do you guys prefer? And the team is currently working on deposit bonuses, drawdown bonuses. So meaning you can trade with even more with far less, right? So it's going to be game changing. Also, we have our academy launching very soon. There are so many reasons outside of Globex just being the longest established, proudly South African broker within the country. We are leading the segment. We are taking things even further. And if those of you were with me last night, I hinted as to what the future holds, and the future is massive. There's never been a better time to be a Globex 360 trader. So just first and foremost, let me know where in the world you guys are watching us from. I'd love to just see those hands up. Let me know where in the world the clients are from around the world. So I see a lot of hands up. Those were the people that have joined us in the Dollars for Lunch session. Guys, Dollars for Lunch, we killed it yesterday, right? Our trades ran over 3,000 pips per position. And in last night's trade-a-thon, we shorted markets just before the close. Markets opened, nice fat gap, around about 1,000 pips on both US 30 as well as NASDAQ. And we're still currently running in profit, right? So if you're holding any of your sell trades from yesterday, just a massive well done to every single one of you. You guys are absolute machines and absolute legends, right? This is what we do this for. Globex 360 TV has been built by Globex 360 to give traders exactly what traders want. I wish I had this many years ago. It would have absolutely changed the course and trajectory of my life. So let me tell you, if you're getting started and you're getting into the markets, there's just never been a better time. Okay, beautiful. I can see a ton of people in the house. Let me just quickly mention some names here. Far too many chats, but I can see Wafik, Wasawa, John, Gawain, Tumelo, Nadir, Ash, Permaleno, Andy, Gilbert. Welcome, bravo. I see two Gilberts. I think it's the same one. Someone who's blank just says Axe James, Mark Hooper, Medistation, Melisi Aslam, Waylan, Godwin, Ruwan, Tyler, Colin, Chris H, Rashad, Ruwan, Pumalelo, Aiden, Peter Faree, Tumelo, Lana, Chris H, Chippo, Franco, let's see, Shamim, Evertrade, Leaf and Skullquake, Zane, Jeff. There's just a ton of you guys with us. Pregason, Pumalelo, I think I already mentioned you. Kutwilo, there's just a ton of people in the house, guys. Listen, massive welcome. I can see Vintok in the house, Porch, Cape Town. Let's see, PE, Germiston, East London, Germany's in the house, all the way from Germany. Welcome, family. Polokwane, Vanderbilt Park, Zimbabwe, Gaborone, Botswana, Namibia, Cape Town, PE, Johannesburg, Durban, Poch, Indonesia. Wow, that is epic. Welcome, Jeff. But for you guys, listen, if it's the first time that you are joining us in a live broadcast, please put your hand up as well. Just pop us a little dab. I think it's called coughing in this one here, right? It comes off as coughing in elbow. Just put in a little dab there so that we can welcome you to the Globex 360 family, because this is how we do. Okay, so we have a ton busy happening in the markets. Now listen, guys, tomorrow is going to be massive, right? Today is big, but I can guarantee you tomorrow is going to be on another level. So we're going to go through what's happening today, but I can tell you something, even if you get yourself ready for tomorrow, Thursday is going to be nuts, right? Tonight, Meta's data that's going to come out. I do believe markets are going to burn with the Meta data, right? There's a lot of speculation that Meta is going to underperform on another level. And I think we could see some massive crashes in the markets, right? So tonight, we're going to do some massive things. But tomorrow, we've got Apple's data. We've got Amazon's data. We've got the US GDP. We've got the European Central Bank doing the interest rate announcement. there is a ton of things happening in the markets tomorrow. So if you're going to get rested and prepared and be a part of that, I definitely say tomorrow is the D-Day and the day you really want to be most involved in the markets, right? Call in sick, take the day off, put in some leave, paid, unpaid. I don't know what you have to do, but I can tell you tomorrow is going to be big. Today, we do have a lot of opportunities. Again, big market moves we obviously want to still capitalize on. So let's jump into the news as always. Just a massive shout out again to everybody that's commenting from our massive family. Secunda's in the house. First 20 times here. I see some devs, some brand new people in the show. Tyler's been here before. I'm pretty sure Tyler's been here before. Tyler, I've seen you here before. I'm pretty sure I've seen you here before. Owen, welcome. The third, welcome guys. Mackenzie's dabbing, but he's definitely been here before. We just want to know who's joining for the very first time. Okay, so let's, as always, we're going to jump into the news. We're going to break down what's happening in the world today and what we need to look out for. So let's jump today. Okay. I might have broke my machine there. Okay, cool. So let's get into the news and we're going to start off on the local front and we're just going to have a look at what is busy happening and what the markets are busy saying. And gives us a better indication of where things are going. So ETOL and ESCOM, key announcements expected from Gondwana in tricky medium-term budget, right? So as you guys know, we've got a change in leadership. And again, it's going to come in with a lot of different implications, right? I get really worried when I see ETOLs because ETOLs is really a failed project. You know, if there's any reviving of that system, I don't know. It was never going to work from day one across the board. So very interesting to see what he's said here. But in any event, I don't believe there's anything that's going to be a relief type announcement, right? So I don't see relief from an ESCOM, e-tolls, taxation, interest rates perspective. If anything, things have to tighten up. The revenue that Treasury faces is far short of what they need in order to overcome some of the bigger challenges. Again, we're still going to see all these different bailouts, these parastatals. We spoke about Transnet being in a massive amount of trouble. Only time will tell, right? They're too big to fail, so they get these billion, 100 millions and billion rand bailouts. So Treasury's really gonna have to dig deep. In most cases, they come off the taxpayers to get that money to respend. So obviously, we're gonna have to follow that one up and where it ends up going. On the US front, really a large amount of the discussion is really happening about what happened last night. Google missed earnings and their stocks fell more than 5% in after-hour markets, right? We are waiting for markets to open up for both Google and Microsoft. Microsoft, if you're part of the earnings call, not missed a lot of their expectations, but really came in line with a lot of expectations. But the big thing there was that their outlook for the next quarter is going to be very difficult. So they beat expectations slightly, Microsoft, but their earnings call revealed they're going to face large headwinds for the next quarter. Now, their quarters are a little bit reversed, right? They're calling, last night's session Q1 of 2023. I don't know how that worked, but we listened to it anyway. Google, on the other hand, missed expectations massively. And this is why we shorted NASDAQ and US 30 just before market close. And on market open, we gapped down substantially and made a good amount of profit. So yesterday, we took markets in both directions. In both directions, we capitalized. And really, the markets are really talking about what happened in yesterday's sessions today. So if you were part of those sessions, you're well informed exactly what happened. But outside of that, not really too much that is being discussed and obviously talked about. Now, look at the S&P 500 heat map. We can see that markets closed out green yesterday. As I said in yesterday's Pounds for Breakfast show, is are we in the next NASDAQ bull run? You remember I titled the show, are we in the next NASDAQ bull run? And we were, right? NASDAQ, US 30, as well as German 30 bought yesterday afternoon, ultimately closing out markets in a whole higher across the board. Now, if you were on that Tesla buy with me that we did the trade-a-thon last week, guys, big surprise, Tesla is finally into profits. We are making money on Tesla. We can see Tesla's up 5.29% as of market close yesterday. So if you're part of that Tesla share items, then massive well done. I know Aslam, you in on that one with me. So we're going to ride Tesla to the moon. All right. Quickly, as we have a look at some of the fundamentals for today and what we could be looking out for on the economic calendar front. Guys, we don't have a lot in the pipelines for today. I'd say the biggest item from the US dollar perspective is going to be new home sales. New home sales will have obviously a knock-on effect on the dollar, but at this point in time, it looks like the dollar's about to fall, right? Again, we're getting these negative earnings reports, but the dollar is still exceptionally weak. We will cover that in a second on the FX analysis side, but really on the Canadian dollar, there is a good amount of opportunity on the interest rates side of things. So interest rate decision coming out at 4 o'clock GMT +2 on that Canadian dollar. And then for the balance of the afternoon, a fairly clear sailing from a fundamental perspective. So we have quite a bit of opportunity to focus purely on price action, both this morning as well as this afternoon, as we obviously get into dollars for lunch. So again, dollars for lunch, I believe, is going to be massive. You definitely want to be part and parcel of that event that is happening this evening. Okay, so we're all obviously here for one thing, and that's to look at the markets, what's happening, and how do we take advantage of that. Now, what we're going to do today, just to be a little bit ahead of time, is we're going to start off with our live trading segment and then transition into some analysis in terms of what the rest of the market is currently doing, right? We'll jump back into analysis for FX, commodities, crypto, and indices. But where I'd like to spend a little bit of my time this morning is just focusing a little more on the live trading side of things. So let's jump into it and let's have a look. Okay, so we're starting off with indices this morning. And I just want to show you guys really quickly, just a quick summary of where we were yesterday, right? And having a look, this is a 15-minute time frame. This is currently US 30 that we are currently looking at. And I just want to show you what transpired yesterday in our dollars for lunch session, as well as what we did yesterday evening. So 15 minutes, just to make the charts a little bit clearer and bolder. Yesterday afternoon, we bought US 30 on the New York Stock Exchange open, right? US 30 rallied. I caught it a little bit earlier than the live session, started to move prematurely. We suspected there were some whisper numbers in the market, but ultimately markets then ended up rallying for about 4,500 pips till yesterday evening. We also had the consumer confidence index that came out at 4 o'clock. We stayed live. The consumer confidence confirmed a weaker dollar, a better indice market, and we held those buys towards the top side. So that 4,500 pips, if you had 3 trades there, depending where you took profit, it's easy to assume you could have at least banked about 10,000 pips right there just on US 30. Now, in our trade-a-thon, our pips for dinner, which I think is definitely going to be the name we might stick around with there for, we looked at a market short just as markets close, right? So there's our market close. We popped in a short. We got a beautiful gap in terms of where markets opened. I think it was around about 500 to 600 pips, and markets continued to break down. We managed that with a trailing stop, and as of this moment in time, we're still currently trading around about 800 pips in profit. Now, looking at this morning, right, and understanding this gap happened across the board, we obviously want to pay attention to where we are now in the state of market, and I can summarize it as follows. Again, this is still US 30, but I'm going down to a 5-minute time frame, and I just want you to see this channel that has developed. 5-minute time frame. This channel has developed. It's tried to push down to the downside. We've really failed there, and we're making an attempt to the top side. So I'm looking at, in the next 30, 40 seconds, do we have a push towards the top side? And if we don't, and we start to fail on US 30 at the $31,744, we could then start to see a continuation of that sell side momentum as we lead up into markets for this afternoon's New York Stock Exchange, as well as for the Meta earnings. Now, it's no secret that the markets believe that Meta earnings is going to be dreadful. We obviously want to capitalize on that, and markets may very well know that, and we could start to see a sell-off even earlier than the New York Stock Exchange open. So we are getting a little bit of a push to the top side. Let's have a look here. A little bit of a push to the top side, both on NASDAQ and US 30. We are in live in terms of the 9 a.m. time frame, and we essentially just want to look at that push to the top side. And all we want to do here is we want to understand is, are we going to beat this morning's rally or recovery that ended at about 4:45 this morning? That's going to be the 5:45 candle on your MT4, because remember, we are an hour ahead of time on MetaTrader. So again, a key indicator would be, do we pop through at 8:15 in the morning? And if not, do we see that markets continue to then fall to the downside? And that's essentially all I'm waiting to materialize on both US 30 as well as NASDAQ. Now remember, we do already have a sell in place, right, with a stop loss into profit. So I am looking to continue that sell momentum, which it seems we might get. And what I'm looking at here is for an engulfing candle past that 9 a.m. candle. And should we push past that mark into that 500 period moving average, I would then really start to consider maybe adding a trade to the downside, or just leaving the sells in their current position, allowing them to run. So let's see how this materializes. And we're just going to set up an alert here just in case, just so we don't miss it. Let's see if our RSI is giving us any sort of early indicator here. Let's quickly give it a look. Okay, RSI is not giving away any hints, but it definitely seems that markets would like to push to the top side. So again, I'm looking to beat, right, that 31,798, 31,800 roundabout to be exact, right? So should we clear that level, right, it will close up our sells that we entered into last night. We took some profit after the market spiked down, but I suspect we could get a rejection here and we could start that bigger sell-off, right? Markets have really started to rally only in the last about 10 minutes off of that market low. And so I'd like to see, do we, push past that in the start of this London session, right? Is there enough volume in this market towards that top side? Now we've got sells on both NASDAQ as well as US30, right? Just looking at NASDAQ, very, very similar market structures to what we saw yesterday, or what I just showed you earlier, on US30. We had that push down markets, then we opened up a sell just before markets closed. Gap was around about in the region of 700-800 pips, and then we pushed to an absolute maximum of 1,400 pips. So we're rebuilding that structure this morning, and the key thing is going to be, do we rally back up to known levels, or do we start the retracement process? That's going to be the big unknown for this morning. But looking at markets across the board, we can definitely see a weaker dollar, and a weaker dollar is definitely in line with what we want to see from a indices rally, or a Wall Street getting back into balance of things, or back into a sense of normality. So just putting German 30 also on a 1 minute time frame, we can see that all three markets are really struggling to spike out of here. Still possible, but we're seeing a decent amount of resistance in this level across both US30 left-hand side, NASDAQ dead center, as well as German 30 the right-hand side. So what I would look for here then, and we're starting to get a little bit of a hint of structure. I'm just going to open up US30 a little bit here, and I just want to show you guys this really, really quickly, because it's starting to give away a little bit of a hint as to what the structure may end up being, right? So you can see we've got this little bit of a channel rising towards the top side, and we can see we've got a little bit of a slowdown in momentum. So for me, a break past the 500 period SMA, right, would be in line with my bigger sell, and I would then add some positions to the downside. Obviously, the safest way to deal with this is that we get a break past the low for this morning, and that we see a continuation of that low towards the downside. That would be the safest play. If you're unsure and you don't already have some big trades that you've taken yesterday, some pips that you've banked, then that might be the play you'd want to go with to be the safest in this particular market structure. So let's hold it and let's see what the markets want to do here. Okay, there we go. So we're getting that push down. So I'm going to add one position just on the sell side, and I'm essentially going to, for now, place my stop loss above, and this is on US30, place my stop loss above the spike high that we got earlier today. Because again, a beating of that price there would mean a continuation to the top side, and we simply don't want to be in a buy or sell if markets are busy buying, right? I'm going to use a little bit of a cheekier stop loss for this morning, because we already banked good amounts of pips. Cheekier meaning I'm going to use a smaller stop loss. So I'm going to use a trailing stop. I'm right clicking here and I'm using a 3,000 points trailing. I might actually use a 2,000 point trailing, because I just want to move into profit here. There's no need to take excess risk, because we've already got a good amount of trades already in profit for this morning. A continuation of the downside when London opens up would be confirmation that London, as well as the rest of the market, see the risk in big tech. Obviously, when we look at Facebook's data, they are hemorrhaging money into the metaverse. Their new name is obviously Meta. I keep calling them Facebook, but their official name has obviously changed to Meta. They're obviously hemorrhaging and throwing a ton of cash into the metaverse. They're throwing a ton of cash into virtual reality. And so that's great, provided that they actually have an earnings per share, right? So we know that Facebook is losing users. We know that Facebook owns Instagram as well as WhatsApp. But Instagram has fallen behind the curve in terms of TikTok, right? From all perspectives, from a user perspective, from a revenue perspective. So that is the current perception at this moment in time. And if the market starts to absorb that and realize that, we could see a greater sell-off, particularly on NASDAQ, with a knock-on effect on the US 30, as we saw yesterday. One can move into the other. So that's essentially what we want to play for in this particular moment in time. So markets are stalling out at that level. We're getting a little bit of a pushback, but we're essentially I'm going to essentially hold this one, right? Again, because we already have some trades already banked in profit, I've got no need to risk excessively. Again, should this trade push closer towards my stop loss and take me out, I would then start to consider long positions back up into structure. But looking at what I know about the markets and what we've seen from a data perspective, I'd be cautious to buy into indices today. We don't have any big US data that could negatively affect the dollar. From a planned fundamental perspective, looking at the data we got from Microsoft, looking at the data we got from Google, the fundamentals definitely point more towards a sell side trajectory. So that's my bias, and that's where I want to obviously be. And that's what I'm essentially going to hold for this morning. Looking into the rest of the markets, we're just going to hold this one. We're not going to stare at this chart for all too long. We'll put in some alerts. If anything pops up, please do let me know. I've muted my MetaTrader somehow, just because it's just been driving me nuts. Again, how to alert on phone setup, Ruan. So we'll do that in the dollars for lunch, or we'll actually do it in the trade-a-thon this evening, where we have a little bit more time. We only have about 12 minutes left total for today's show, so we will go through that. It is also handled in part of the academy, so we will dive into that in a bit more detail. So we should already be moving into profit on your side. So you might want to start to take some profit, or you want to start engaging your trailing stop, right? So we were temporarily in profit. So a lot of volatility in this area, which is a good thing. It's what we want to see. But the only thing that worries me is this does look like a 78.6 Fibonacci pullback. So let's measure it really quickly. Yeah, so just short of the 78.6, really a 61.8, if anything, and then a rebuild. So again, stop losses just above the last spike up. Again, you want to use risk management on this one, because again, markets can do pretty much anything today, right? It's a bit of a steeper stop loss, but considering, you know, we've taken potentially about 10,000 pips yesterday to re-risk 500 pips, seems like a decent risk reward ratio there, right? So we're going to leave this one for the time being. My alerts aren't going off, and I think I've muted them just because we had some of those previous disconnect issues and it was throwing me off the show. So I'm going to leave this running for the time being, and we're going to cover some other opportunities in the market, which I do believe you need to know about, and we need to obviously be aware of. So we're going to move into some FX analysis, and we're going to cover the dollar index. Your US 30 trade should already be in profit, so you can choose to cut out at break even or hold for that deeper sell. I'm going to go ahead and hold because we've obviously banked good money yesterday. So moving into the FX analysis, we are going to be looking at the dollar index really quickly and looking at where the dollar index is currently sitting. As I explained just before we got that next push down, I explained yesterday morning, right, looking at reading the markets, right, and not relying too much on, you know, these different candlestick symbols and falling hammers, shooting stars, whatever. Just read the data. The data says to us that we're seeing a loss of momentum towards the top side. We're seeing these new pushes towards the downside, looking at the dollar index, right? So we're getting these massive push downs, and we saw a continuation of that yesterday, just before our dollars for lunch show, or just before the New York Stock Exchange opened. We got that next push down towards the downside. This is what it looks like on a 15-minute time frame. So at around about 3:15, just as we started our dollars for lunch, we started to get that loss on the dollar value. We saw that on the 21st, We've seen that again on the 17th, and we continue to see the same trend, right? On the 13th, and then again on the 11th. Prior to that, we were seeing dollar up thrusts, and now we're starting to see those dollar down thrusts. So that's the current expectation. In line with where the dollar is at, I just want to show you guys how vulnerable the dollar is currently sitting. We are at major structural support. This is a 4-hour, and I can zoom out and you can see a massive, massive bull market structure. Now again, the dollar is way overpriced for where it currently sits in the market. Yes, it's the world reserve currency, but it's just way overpriced. I don't believe that continuation of that movement can stay. And so if we get a break in structure, and I think primarily if we get a break on the 110.53, right, 110.53 on the dollar index, we could then see large scale buys into indice markets, as well as large scale buys into commodity instruments, right? Gold, silver, copper, corn, coffee, these kind of items. Oil and crude Brent, as well as WTI, could have also a knock-on effect, but they've got their own set of economic issues in terms of Saudi Aramco, so on and so forth. So that's what the expectation is. Everywhere that we see dollar-based currencies, we'll see those currencies fall. An example of that would be something like USD ZAR. Dollar loses value, USD ZAR starts to fall. And everywhere the dollar is the quote currency on something like Euro USD, we could see those buy-side momentums. In most commodities, they're weighted against the dollar being the base currencies. So XAU, USD, dollar the quote currency, apologies. Those ones we will see then rise if the dollar loses in value, right? So we'll see the price of gold go higher in relation to a single dollar. So that's obviously something we need to be aware of. Euro USD, as we looked at yesterday, is still continuing in that buy side momentum, has punched through diagonal resistance that we can see marked off over there. And again, I'm really looking for that parity, right? We aren't very close or aren't very far away from it. We're currently trading at this current moment in time. We're currently trading at €1 will get 99 cents and 76 pips from a dollar perspective, right? So the second we go to that 1-to-1 ratio, that is going to be a key resistance level across the board for the euro dollar. And should we break through that, I'm really looking to start buying out Euro USD once we cross that dollar, €1 buying $1.02, 0 pips flat, right? So Euro USD is definitely going to be one we want to pay attention to. USD ZAR, very, very interesting. I really would like us to pay a little bit more attention to USD ZAR today, especially if you're starting off and as a currency trader and you obviously want to get more into things. Now remember, USD ZAR is an exotic currency pair, right? So meaning your spread is a little bit higher. If you're getting started, you generally, are advised, and people say to you, get started on a major pair, Euro USD, GBP JPY, Euro GBP, one of those major currency pairs. USD ZAR has a ton of movement. It's local, so we can understand better. You can understand the cause and effects from the politics. The only thing with USD ZAR, if you're getting started out, and I know we have a lot of people that essentially are joining us for the first time, it's called the rattlesnake, right? You will see interest rates go up. You'll see unemployment go up. You'll see a ton of things go up, and the South African Rand will gain strength. Gain strength, meaning USD ZAR will start to fall, right? But you'll see good figures come out every once in a while when it does happen in the blue moon or when it snows, and you'll see the South African Rand loses value. So it's a little bit harder to learn to correlate fundamentals, technicals, as well as the sentiment around the South African Rand, but it's a really good place to learn price action. And then obviously bring in some of those external fundamentals on some other items like euro, pound, or the dollar. We will start looking more at Asian markets to start tying in things. I am finding covering the correct data in certain Asian markets is a little bit tricky from a language barrier perspective. I found some great translation sites, not great in terms of their understanding. It's a whole different ball game, but we will start bringing that in later shows. You definitely want to stay tuned and be a part of that. So USD ZAR, massive opportunity. 78.6 is definitely the ideal buy zone. But as you can see, this is a 1 hour time frame. We've got a really, really good diagonal support running through the price of USD ZAR, but also just paying attention to the fact that on a 4 hour, our major structural support is sitting a little bit south of current price. So I'm very interested to potentially buy USD ZAR in this current state. The only thing I just want to draw your attention to, or just let everyone bear in mind, is that if we look at USD ZAR, it does have the opportunity to push the 78.6. And then again, failing that, right, we do see that it can make a move even further towards that 61.8, right? So just please bear that in mind. So I'm going to look for a 78.6 stop loss just below that 78.6. And again, I'm looking at a 5-lot position here. Should USD ZAR just go back to normal highs, right? That 18 Rand 50 to the dollar on a 5-lot position, that's $10,000. So risk reward ratio here on this particular trade is going to be about 1 to 2 plus minus, but there is a bigger trade at hand. You know, should we start to peak out at that 19 Rand $30 over where I think things can definitely go, where I think things could definitely be. Okay, so depending where you've obviously taken profits here, if you guys have already closed in profits or your trailing stops have kicked in, we did move about 1,600 points into profit, 1,600 pips or so, but we haven't broken that low on US30. I do think we could potentially start to see a little bit of a new channel or new structure forming here, and we could see something like that, right? So again, a range towards the downside is sometimes a precursor to a next pop-up. Just keep that in mind, right? Once we're in profit, try and secure your next trade, just so we don't get caught out into a buy-side pop. Yeah, but we should have been in profit at some point there while I was speaking for probably about 4 or 5 minutes, up to about 150, 200 pips or so. So yeah, just manage that trade accordingly. If you're still in the bigger sell from this morning, then obviously we're going to continue to hold that. That bigger sell happened and it's still quite a distance away. So we've still got quite a few pips running in profit from that sell, around about 1,000 pips there. So risking, 400 pips when we've already got 1,000 pips in running profits, not too bad for the day. Now this afternoon, I believe the New York Stock Exchange is going to fully absorb that Microsoft as well as Google information. So you definitely want to be part of Dollars for Lunch. And then this evening's trade-a-thon, this might be by far the most interesting trade-a-thon. Again, I do think we might miss expectations quite heavily on Meta, right? And I think it's going to be the start of the downfall of Facebook, right? And I say this understanding what I'm saying is quite, substantial in terms of a claim, but I'll tell you why. And I think that Facebook has just got too big to be nimble and adapt and foresee what's happening in the markets. We've got YouTube introducing shorts. We've got YouTube introducing monetization on short format content. We've got TikTok that is absolutely dominating. We've got Facebook in this virtual reality move that no one really seems to be buying into, neither from a games development, but we'll get into it this evening. But in any event, I do believe Facebook has the potential to shock the markets, and we want to obviously be a part of that to capitalize on that from a sell potential perspective. So again, for everybody that stayed in last night's session, MVPs to every single one of you. Dollars for Lunch links, as well as the link for this evening's trade-a-thon, our pips for dinner, that will be sent out before 12 o'clock today. So please check your inboxes. When I know that 1 or 2 people get it, then I'm knowing everybody's getting it, right? So please check your spam folders, search in your email folders for Globex 360, and I promise you'll find it there. Our system sends to everybody. We can see people opening it, we can see people reading it, and it won't exclude just you. As an example, if you do struggle, you're welcome to hit our support bot and contact an agent just to find out, do you qualify? Is your account more than $100? And does the email that we have on the system for you reflect the email that you're currently using to help iron out any of those bugs? If you know it's the wrong email, kindly log into your client portal on the new Globex 360 site, which is just simply www.globex360.co.za. And all you need to then do is obviously just log into your client portal and make sure that your account details are updated on the site, right? So again, you can just log in through your social media. All right, so guys, I'll see you all for Dollars for Lunch. It seems like US30 is peaking towards the top side, has closed my position already, and we might see some buy side momentum, but I won't be taking anything this morning until we get to the New York Stock Exchange open, right? We are getting a little bit of a spike there. But I would essentially continue holding my sell positions. I don't believe in a NASDAQ or indices buy at this particular point in time, just because of this bad fundamental data. So I'm going to continue to just hold this out and see where it goes from there. And we will reassess in the dollars for lunch, as well as this evening's trade-a-thon. Again, just remembering Thursday is going to be massive. You want to be prepared. You want to be ready. You want to have your accounts ready in order to capitalize, right? Taking some of these shares and stocks is not cheap, as well as, having these bigger sizes for indices. $100 is a bare minimum. It's definitely not a recommended amount. You certainly want to be able to capitalize off over $1,000 or so. So that's just my personal opinion, not to be seen as personal finance recommendations of any sort or any kind. Guys, outside of that, listen, have yourselves an amazing day. As always, remember to live and trade the Globix 360 way. I'll see you guys all dollars for lunch. Much love to every single one of you, and we'll see you all a little bit later. Yeah, goodbye.